Hey there, it's Sven. So today I'm going to be making a video regarding the spinning of these old guns. Um, so laid out here from easiest to spin all the way to hardest. Um, I have the Heritage Rough Rider. This is a 22 pistol, a 22 long rifle. I think it can also shoot 22 magnums. Next to that I have an Uberti 1873 Colt Single Action Army. From there I have the 1858 Remington. Next to that I have an 1860 Colt Army. And then finally the 1847 Colt Walker. That's Uberti. What do you call that thing? Pieta Uberti Heritage. So yeah, laid out here, it's from easiest to spin, progressively getting harder. Um, but all of these guns are spinnable. This one is often intimidating to people, but it can be done. I'll try and show you that right now. I just took a shower, so let me go through, get some of these guns out of the way, just in case I drop one. They are all unloaded. You should still treat them as if they are, but inherently spinning a gun, you kind of have to treat it like it's a bit unloaded. It's not ideal. But let's start. So the Heritage Rough Rider is definitely the best gun to spin here. It's very lightweight. The center of mass is right about here. It's not quite here. It's also not quite there. So that makes it really good. What makes it better than the full-sized 1873, and that's not just considering the weight, is the trigger. You can tell this one's been spun a lot. The trigger is actually very wide and comfortable, which makes it very easy to spin. So Heritage Rough Rider. The other thing that's good about these is that they are really inexpensive. So if you do drop it and you break it, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. These guns are really cheap. You can, do the road agent spin with them. You can spin them. You can flip them. They're really, really good for all that stuff. Now this Uberti replica of the 1873 Colt Single Action Army is probably the most commonly spun gun. And don't get me wrong, it is a wonderful gun to spin. One of my favorites. Well, probably even my favorite, even though it's not quite as easy as the Heritage Rough Rider. Things that make this guy a little harder is the weight. The balance is just about there as well. If you have the general mid-length barrel length, they come in like 4 inches, I think 4.75 inches, 5.5 inches, and then 7.5 inches, something like that. This is the 5-inch barrel, and it is a very good gun to spin. What makes it a little bit more difficult, not only the weight, is the thin offset trigger. It's not a big deal, especially if you get one that's comfy, but it is a little bit, if you don't have the calluses, it can be a bit painful. But these are probably the most commonly spun guns, so you can't go wrong with them. Now, moving up is the 1858 Remington, this Pieta version in stainless steel, so it's quite heavy. Balance is very far forward. Not quite as much as you'd think, though. What makes this guy good is it has a very wide, very smooth trigger, which makes it very easy to spin. All things considered, this is probably my favorite gun to do the road agent spin with. And if I can do this, it's quite long, so it's also fairly good. I'm a little bit afraid to drop them around my other guns. I don't want to drop one on top of each other. It's fairly good to let's see, one more try. do that with. um, Plus a little bit of a stage fright from the camera. Um, so this is good for getting into long barrel spinning. It inherently will not be as fast as the shorter barrel ones, but it's still very easy with this and very, very comfortable. I doubt you need any calluses. Moving up, I have the 1860 Colt Single Action Army. So this guy is the Uberti, but I also own a Pieta. I'll get him out there right now. Now, both of them are spinnable, obviously, but I did have to do some work on the Pieta to make it comfortable, because this Pieta had a very, very sharp part on that trigger that would eat my finger up. The Uberti did not. And you can tell just by the general differences in the gun, the Uberti has much smoother lines than the Pieta. The Pieta is much sharper in everything. Probably because of their, what do you call it, the weight. These guys can be a bit difficult though, because again, that offset thin trigger can dig. But I can't lie, these are a really fun gun to spin. They offer just enough challenge that it's cool, or that it's fun. One more try at that. There we go. They offer just enough challenge that it's fun. One more try at that. Yeah, I'll get there. But they're still not difficult. They're really fun for reholstering tricks as well. So altogether, everything that I've mentioned, even though this is the hardest out of all of these that I've shown so far, it's still not fun to spin. The last one is the Colt Walker, 1847. This is an Uberti, as I said. So these guys, most people consider them unspinnable, but that is not true. You can spin them. It's not the most fun thing to do, especially because this is several takes in. What makes them not fun to spin? Well, one is obvious, the weight. There we go. This thing weighs like 5 pounds, which is give or take 2.2 kilograms. And mixed with that, it has the thin offset trigger, as most Colts do. Mixed with that, this little guy right there, instead of that being smooth, it has that sharp curve that really likes to get caught on your fingers. Stuff like the road agent spin, simple, no problem. Doing one spins, easy, no problems. I can do that all day. Doing multiple spins is really what can hurt. So the problem that most people have when they're trying to spin these guys is they try and do it just like you would, one of these. You see my hand stays more or less centered. This guy, you're trying to move more around the center of weight. It's difficult to explain, but they are spinnable, especially if you practice for it. It's just very, very slow. But yeah, and of course, as my other video said, like Outlaw Josie Wales, road agent spin is not very hard, and just single spins like that, they can be tricky. They can be very tricky, but they're not that bad. What I was saying with this is that you can't open your hand and get it out of the way as easily when going for like a front spin. If you're trying to do a front spin, this often catches your finger. You see, if I try and open, it catches. Compared to like this, where if I try and open, easy, smooth. This guy, it gets caught. It locks it into your hand very well, which is kind of not what you want when you spin. But if you get to spinning these good, it's very impressive. So that's my take on it. It's not super informative, but I hope somebody enjoyed it. That's all. Hey, do.